truly strong. High in the mountains, where the wind moved like a quiet breath through endless fields of bamboo, there lived a master, known for one thing. His students became the strongest people the world had ever seen. They called him the Bamboo Master. However, days would pass, sometimes weeks, before anyone came to open the temple door. So seekers would arrive and wait at the gates for long periods, and most would eventually leave. One morning, 3 strangers arrived at the gate, not together, but at the same time, all seeking the same thing, to become strong enough to overcome any adversity. They stood before the closed gate, uncertain at first, then slowly settled into waiting. The first was Kael, a young man built like the mountain itself. His arms carried the memory of labor and hard work. His posture held the certainty of someone who had always relied on his strength. The second was Soren, thin, almost fragile at first glance. But what he lacked in muscle, he had made up for in flexibility. His body could bend in ways most could not, almost like elastic. He believed that power came from the ability to adapt, to avoid resistance, to move around what others tried to push through. And the third stood slightly apart. Her name was Lira. Quiet, she did not speak for a long time because she had grown used to not being asked. Weeks passed, and then one morning, without warning, the gate opened. The master stood there. His presence was steady, grounded. His eyes were clear. He let his gaze pass across the 3 of them, not measuring, not judging, simply seeing. They bowed. "Master," Kael said, "we have come to learn how to become strong, to overcome any adversity." The master looked at them for a long moment. Then he spoke. "2 of you may enter." And then his eyes turned to Lira. "You stay," he said. Silence fell. Even though the boys did not know her well, they felt a quiet discomfort at seeing her left behind after waiting as long as they had. But they said nothing. Kael stepped forward first. Soren followed. Lira remained where she was. The gate began to close, and she stood outside. In that moment, a familiar feeling returned, that she did not quite belong, that she had not been invited. She stood still. Her heart wanted to cry, but her eyes had no tears left. So she simply remained there. At that moment, a bamboo farmer appeared, pushing a cart filled with fresh bamboo shoots. He stopped when he saw her standing there. "Do you need help?" he asked. She looked at him, then at the gate, now closed, but she said nothing. The farmer looked at her like he had seen this before, many times. Then he asked gently, "What did he say?" She remembered the words clearly. You stay. Even though she remembered them, thinking about them now carried a different meaning. She realized within herself that the master had never really sent her away. He had said, you stay. In that moment, the farmer smiled, not with surprise, but with understanding. It seems you need a place to stay, he said. Come, I'll introduce you to the others. Lira followed him. The path curved gently along the mountain, leading into the wide bamboo fields that surrounded the temple. Meanwhile, inside the temple, Kael and Soren followed the master through a quiet courtyard. The master stopped and turned to them. In his hands were 2 lengths of bamboo. He gave one to each of them. When your bamboo has grown strong, he said, you will be ready for your first lesson. They waited for more, but that was all. They glanced at each other. Both knew bamboo takes years to grow strong. Then the master added, until then, each of you will have a task. Someone will guide you. Learn from them. They nodded, thanked him. Then he left. Little did they know they would not see him again for the next 3 years. The days began. Kael was taken to a shaded space near the edge of the temple. There, craftsmen and women worked in silence. Bamboo lay in long hollow lengths beside them. Some split into thin stripes, some curved into shape, some already woven into baskets. One of the craftsmen placed a knife beside him and a piece of bamboo. Make it useful, he said, smiling. He would never speak again. Kael looked at the bamboo in his hands. A quiet unease stirred within him. He found himself wishing the master had given him a different task, one where his strength, his muscle, could be of use. The second boy, Soren, was sent beyond the temple walls. There, men worked without pause. Blades cutting through thick stalks, ropes tightening around heavy bundles, shoulders carrying weight across uneven ground. Soren watched them for a moment. Then one of the workers stepped forward and placed a bundle before him. Take it, he said. He would never speak again while working on the task. No one would speak while doing the task, he later realized. Soren looked down. The bamboo was thicker than he expected, heavier. He bent to lift it, and in that instant he felt it. The weight. It did not yield to him. It simply resisted. There was no way around the weight, only through it, and he doubted he could do this. Despite their struggles, the boys continued their tasks each day. They planted their bamboo saplings, and every morning they returned to check on them, quietly hoping to see signs of growth. But nothing changed. The first lesson would have to wait. At times, frustration crept in. Kael worked among the craftsmen, trying to shape bamboo into something useful. but his hands were too raw. The stripes would crack and splinter under his touch, turning into waste again and again. He felt clumsy, out of place, useless. Yet no one scolded him. The craftsmen worked in silence. When Kael failed, they would simply smile and hand him another stripe of bamboo. So he kept going. Soren's trial was different. Each day he carried heavy bundles across uneven ground. The weight pressed into his shoulders, into his bones. His body ached constantly. Some days he had to stop just to breathe. Shame followed him. He believed he lacked the strength. And yet no one mocked him. The man worked without complaint, without judgment, only steady, relentless motion. And so, despite the pain, Soren kept going too. Meanwhile, Lira, the girl, drifted into the life of the bamboo fields. At first she only observed. Then, without noticing, when it began, she started to help. A basket carried, a shoot gently cleaned, a task completed before it was asked. And slowly, as roots take hold beneath unseen soil, she became part of that place. No one announced it. No one needed to. They simply made space for her, and she filled it with kindness. She learned the ways of bamboo. One day, she went for water deep within the bamboo forest, and she saw him, the master. He sat upon the earth as if he had always been there, still unmoving. Before him, two pandas ate bamboo, slowly, as though time itself had softened around them. No words were spoken. Even the wind seemed to pause. She felt something shift within her, like a door opening. The master turned his gaze toward her and smiled. She smiled back and closed her eyes for a single weightless moment. And when she opened them, the master was gone. Only the bamboo remained, swaying gently, as if nothing had ever happened. 3 years passed since they first arrived at the temple doors. As time went by, the boys became fully absorbed in their daily tasks. Sometimes they even forgot to check on their bamboo. Then one day, when they finally went to look at it again, they could not believe what they saw. Their bamboo had grown suddenly tall and strong. At that moment, they heard a bell. They had never heard a bell in the temple before. Surprised, they looked around and saw people moving quickly toward the courtyard. The temple doors were open. Even people from outside were entering. Something important was happening. One of them stopped an old man who was walking in the same direction. "What is happening?" he asked. The old man looked at him and said, "It's lesson day." As soon as he said that, both boys realized something. Their first lesson was meant to happen when their bamboo had grown. They felt a rush of joy. Finally, they would receive their first teaching from the master. They hurried toward the courtyard. But as they arrived, something felt unusual. People were not just gathering, they were waiting for them. They were gently guided toward a small platform at the center. People gathered in a circle around them. Soren leaned toward another boy and asked, "Is the master coming to give us the lesson?" The boy smiled. "The master never teaches," he said. Then he added, bowing slightly, "Today you will be the teachers." Kael and Soren froze. They didn't believe they had anything to teach. Then they noticed Lira, sitting quietly among the crowd. The master arrived. He walked toward them, bowed, and then everyone sat down. No one remained standing. Then the master turned to Kael. "Tell us," he said, "what did bamboo teach you?" Kael stood up. He looked at the people around him. There was a knot in his stomach, but he had learned something. "All my life," he began, "I relied on my strength. When I started working with bamboo crafts, I realized I didn't know how to use that strength properly. I thought I just needed to force it, but my hands didn't know how to control it with precision. I ruined many stripes. I turned them into waste. It was only when I accepted that as my weakness that I began to learn, to feel where it wanted to bend, to follow its lines instead of breaking them." He lifted his gaze. "Bamboo is strong because it bends. And strength means nothing if you don't know how to control it." He bowed and sat down. Then the master turned to Soren. "What did bamboo teach you?" Soren stood up. He was nervous, but his body was no longer the same. He looked stronger now. "Before I began," he said, "I thought strength meant avoiding what I couldn't do. But the bamboo didn't move on its own. At some point, you have to create strength within yourself. Otherwise, you keep avoiding things, and some things cannot be avoided. Bamboo may be hollow and light, but it grows tall. It has nodes that give it stability. If it relied only on flexibility, it would fall. Bamboo is strong because it is both flexible and firm." He bowed and sat down. The people listened quietly and appreciated their words. Then the master turned to Lira, who was sitting among the crowd. He called her forward. "What did bamboo teach you?" he asked. "One day," she said, "there was a storm. The wind was very strong, but the bamboo did not break, unlike other trees. Not because it was hard, but because it allowed the wind to move it where it wanted without resisting. Before bamboo tries to reach the sky, it grows downward, developing a strong root system beneath the soil. And when it spreads, it makes itself difficult to remove, earning its space even uninvited. Because its strength is also in its number." She bowed and sat down. Then the master spoke. "If you want to be truly strong, you must make strength out of your weaknesses." After that, the temple came alive in celebration. They honored the bamboo, the quiet giver and teacher, that provided them with shelter, with their craft, their food, and even their healing.